How can your inner child help set you free? That is what we're learning today in this Timeless Pick a Card Tarot reading. So, welcome if you're new here. My name is Juliana, and I'm so glad you decided to check out Sunflower Philosophy Tarot. And if you're not new here, welcome back. So happy to have you. I am really excited about this reading. I love doing an inner child reading, and I do want to urge you to not skip the group selection / reading breakdown, because this is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do here. If you did watch my other inner child reading, it will be similar to that, so you'll have an idea of what we're doing. But I'm not even going to get into that yet, because I always like to do a brief centering exercise before we do anything else. So if you would like to take a few minutes to get centered and get into a bit of a meditative state and just collect yourself and get ready to receive messages that are meant for you and tap into your intuition, stick around for that. If not, I do have the timestamps laid out in the description, so you can just skip ahead if you want to and head over to the reading breakdown. But it's up to you, whatever you want to do. For those of you who are joining me for the centering exercise, let's just get right into it. So if you are able to, please get yourself comfortable, get settled. And of course, if you are driving or doing any activities that require your attention, I do request that you skip this, do it another time when you are able to. But everyone who is ready, if you feel called to, once you're all comfy, you may close your eyes and bring your attention to your breathing. And as always, just notice your breathing, notice what it feels like to breathe in and out. You don't need to adjust it at all. You don't need to force anything, although bringing your attention to your breathing may change the nature of how you're doing it. That's not necessary. All that I'm asking for here is just a little bit of presence, just paying attention to the sensation of breathing. So just do that and allow yourself to listen to the sound of my voice, and imagine that with every inhale, you are inhaling something beautiful, loving, and fully aligned with you. Just inhaling such good energy. And when you are exhaling, you're just letting go of anything that's stale, that no longer serves you, that you're ready to let go of. Just let all that go. Just imagine that's happening every single time you're breathing in and out. And with every exhale, you're simply getting lighter and more relaxed and more at ease and more in touch with yourself, coming back to who you are, returning to your own energy, just feeling completely tapped in to you, to your intuition, and to what is going on right now in this moment. And as you're just taking these few moments to get tapped in and tuned into you, you can also set the intention, if you wish, to tune into the version of your inner child that wants to come through to you today, that has a message for you that will set you free in some way, whatever that means to you. You don't even have to know. Just set the intention now to get in touch with that part of you, and that is who will come through in this reading. And once we are in the reading, you will know if the inner child you are connecting with is truly you and is the reading that is meant for you today. So once you set the intention, you can let it go and trust. And now that you're just a little bit more centered, a little bit more in touch with yourself and your intuition at this time, you are ready to select your group to know which reading is meant for you. And so I will see you over in the reading breakdown and group selection right after this. Okay, so whether you join me for the brief centering exercise or not, welcome to the reading breakdown / group selection. So this is going to be a little bit longer than it usually is today because I am doing a little pre-reading reading sort of situation. Obviously, first of all, let's get into what the reading is about. It is about your inner child, what messages it has for you right now, in order to set you free in some way in your present life, in your present moment. This could be in a way that you are aware of in terms of maybe there's some area in your life you're not feeling free right now. But it could also just be in an unexpected way, in some way you've never thought about before. Maybe there's some kind of perspective or memory that your inner child wants to bring up that will click something into place for you, align something for you. It could be anything, and we're just going to be open to that. So what this is going to look like is, first of all, obviously I have these 4 groups for you to choose from, and we will actually talk about the item that you're choosing and the card for the group before we get into the actual reading itself, because during the group selection, I am actually going to be giving you traits of a child here based on intuitions that I got ahead of time for each group, and then you can choose based on which inner child sounds most like you or resonates most with you. There could be more than one group that resonates with you. Maybe there's different stages of your life that resonate with these different inner children. But whatever feels most relevant to you right now, or whichever one you're most drawn to, you can gravitate towards that one, pick that one. And of course, you can always pick more than one group. You can always, change your mind after you get to the group that you selected. And then once you select your group, once we're in your group, we will use the Biddy Tarot to get some messages for you to set you free. And we will also get some quote cards for you from my stack of cards that I made that have hand drawings on the front and quotes on the back, and we will get some of those for additional messages from your inner child, and we'll just see what they want to tell you. And so just to be clear, your inner child can show up as really any younger version of you, but it's obviously in this case probably going to be a child version of you, but we're also open-minded here, so it doesn't matter what age you are. It could be any younger version of you as well, if that resonates. So don't think too hard about it. Just let whatever messages come to you and resonate with you come to you, and trust it. So let's get into the group selection. So obviously we have 4 groups, and I'm going to start with group 1, and we're going to talk about who the inner child is for group 1 that's coming through, and then we'll continue on down the line. So over here we have group 1. So for group 1, we have this Hot Wheel. So we have this green, it's kind of like a race car with the number 9 on it. It's got some purple, some pink, some teal, this little, hopefully that's, yeah, there we go. I was a little bit out of frame. Yeah, so we have this Hot Wheel. And we have the Horseman of Pentacles, also known as the Knight of Pentacles, for your tarot card. So for group 1, the inner child is coming through. First of all, first thing I got was that this could possibly be a teenager or a teenage version of you. Also, the number 9 is significant, being that there's a 9 on the Hot Wheel car, so that could be anything from a birthday to, it could also possibly be an age, so this doesn't have to be a teenager. Maybe it's a 9-year-old version of you or a 19-year-old version of you, something like that. I was getting that for some of you, this could be around when you learn to drive, if you did learn to drive, or the age when it's customary for you to have learned to drive wherever you live, if, again, that is relevant to you, or simply an age where you gained a new level of freedom in some way, or where you would have normally gained a new level of freedom in some way if that didn't happen for you. I also was noticing this interesting tension between this race car, something that goes fast, something that looks like it would be a fast way of transportation, versus the Horseman or Knight of Pentacles, which is the slowest of the knights, and therefore it feels kind of like a a bit of an oxymoronic energy here, a push and pull between fast and rushing versus slow and steady. There could be an energy of, for some of you, a late bloomer here. Maybe this was also a time in your life where you were very busy or rushed around a lot, but also maybe for some of you, you felt like you couldn't hit certain milestones because you had a lot of other things going on, or there was a specific goal you were chasing where you didn't actually focus on some of the other things that maybe other kids around you would have been focusing on at the time. And I also feel like this could have been a time around when you maybe had your first job, or you were actually contemplating what do you want your profession to be in the future. But there's definitely something here about progress being important, freedom being important, and also taking your time and going at your own pace. So whether you were someone who's always kind of taken your time and gone at your own pace, or this was a lesson that you were learning at the time, that feels significant to this group. So that is group 1. And now we're going to move over to group 2. So for group 2's inner child, we have this lizard plush. And it's pretty old. You can see it's sparkly, but it's kind of fading in some spots. It's a little ripped. You can see some of the beads through it. And he's a little stitched up on the sides too. This is a lizard that's been through it a little bit. Well loved, if you will take that. So we also have the 9 of Cups for group 2. The 9 of Cups being a card of happiness and satisfaction. And so that was a message that I got, is that for most people in this group, I feel like this version of you was relatively happy. This was a happy time in your life, maybe a time when you were a happy kid, or just happy-go-lucky, or maybe you came across that way. I also felt like, for some of you, this is specific, but you might have grown up in a hot environment. Maybe there were lizards around. Maybe also for some of you, maybe very literally, you were really into lizards. There's also a solitary energy here, where maybe you were a bit of a loner, or you were an only child. For some of you, I do feel like you played alone a lot, or preferred to play alone. In general, even if you were a bit lonely at times, I do feel like you enjoyed being on your own or being in your own energy at this time in your life. And I also got a message that some of you could have been very attached to things, very attached to certain toys, like this toy is somewhat worn and very old, but it's been stitched up many times, especially when my sister and I were younger, because we wanted to keep him and we didn't want to have to get rid of him just because he was leaking beads all over the place. So I feel like that is something that you might resonate with if this is your group, is being someone who maybe would like mend a toy or sew it up rather than get rid of it when it gets old. And I overall just got the feeling of a satisfaction with life from this group. That is something that might have been characteristic of this time in your life, could resonate with you now. But again, this is meant to symbolize your inner child. So I do feel like whether, and this is a message as well, whether you remember this time or not in your life, this was a time when you were generally actually a happy kid. So interesting. So even if you don't remember that time, if you're drawn to this group, it might be for you. So keep that in mind. And now we're going to move over to group 3. So for group 3, we have the Rubik's Cube and the World card. Just covering up for YouTube. So for group 3, this inner child that's coming through, first of all, might have been very into logic games, puzzles, maybe math and science oriented. There's definitely an emphasis on intellect. For some of you, you could have been a bit of a prodigy in some area, or really smart in school. I also got the sense with the World card that some of you may have moved around a lot as a kid, or if not moved around, maybe traveled a lot. I also got the sense that you could come from an immigrant family or a mixed heritage family. And then very specifically, I was getting the message as well for some of you of marching band or color guard or maybe baton. Some of you maybe did baton when you were a kid. Just the world card is holding batons in this card, and that caught my eye. So for some of you, that could resonate. And I also feel like this could be a version of you that was in some kind of transitionary stage. So possibly this is the version of you when you hit puberty. Or this was a version of you that was maybe at the end of, in between like schools, like in between elementary school and middle school, or in between middle school and high school, in between high school and college, or in between moving from like one place to another, something like that. There's something about being at a transitionary phase in life as well with the world card here, being at the end of one cycle and the beginning of another. So that is also possibly relevant to you and your inner child that's coming through here. So if that sounds like your group, keep that in mind. But let's talk now about group 4. So for group number 4, we have this pink bear, which we call in my household the boo-boo bear, because it used to have this plastic pink ice cube that you would put in the freezer, and then you'd stick it in the band here, and you'd put it on like a bump if you like hurt yourself or like got a boo-boo basically. And yeah, a very cute, comforting little way to keep yourself to deal with cuts and bruises and things like that. And then for your tarot cards, we got the Horseman of Wands, which is the Knight of Wands, and the Seven of Swords. Okay, so a few things here. First of all, you could have been a bit of a rambunctious child, or just gotten injured a lot, or gotten sick a lot. You might have been a very physically and or emotionally sensitive child. Either you maybe had a lot of allergies or illnesses throughout your childhood, or you were a very anxious, emotionally reactive child. It's also possible for some of you, you had an important comfort item that you were very attached to, or liked comfort items, had a lot of comfort items. I'm also getting that this could be a very creative, passionate, loud even child. There also is a potential older sibling energy here. So for some of you, an older sibling might have been significant. And I also feel like this could have been a time in your life where you felt lied to often. So this could be in a general sense, like maybe this is a really young child who, for example, like their parents told them, this was like the era of your life where your parents would have told you things like, oh yeah, Santa Claus is real, and like casually lied to you about things just because they didn't know how to explain it, right? Because you were very young. So maybe not telling you the full truth about things because it's hard to explain certain things to a child. So it could be sort of very general and maybe more benign like that, or it could be something that's a bit more serious where maybe there was an era of your life where certain things were happening around you that you didn't understand the full truth of until you got older. So that could be significant for you here as well. And then I also feel like there's a potential that you were a bit of a troublemaker and or a liar yourself. You know, this could have been an era of your life where you first learned how to lie and learned how to tell an untruth, and maybe you got into some trouble. Maybe this could be a younger child. You know, I was getting younger child vibes, especially with the boo-boo bear and like being a really young kid and not always telling the truth because you finally learned that that's something that you can do. But then I also got that this could be a bit of an older version of you, like a teenager who acts out and lies to their parents actively in rebellion, or because, you know, in their household, that's what they feel like they need to do. So either one could resonate with you. But that is all the groups. So you can take your time. You can go down to the timestamps and pick which one you believe is for you. As always, use your intuition. Take what messages resonate with you, leave what doesn't. And you can always pick more than one group. So feel free to do that. So yeah, without further ado, I will see you over in your reading. At group 1, if you selected this Hot Wheel car and the Horseman of Pentacles or Knight of Pentacles card, then you're in the right place, and this is your reading with a message from your inner child to help set you free. So as I described in the introduction / reading breakdown, I'm going to just be using these cards to get messages from your inner child to help set you free in some way in your current life right now. And then we'll also get some quote cards for additional messages from your inner child. So first things first, I hope you didn't skip the group selection because I did do something a little special. I talked about each group in the group selection and the aspects of the inner child that was coming through for that group. So for most of you, probably that's how you chose your group and how you ended up here. So I did already talk a bit about the type of inner child that's coming through for this group in that segment. So if you missed that, you probably want to go back there and just see what I talked about. It doesn't have to all be applicable to you. That doesn't have to be how you chose this group, but it might just give you some more insight if you are curious. Now, I did say that this for some of you could be a teenager, but I also want to make it clear that this doesn't have to be your teenage self, and you also don't have to know 100% which version of you is coming through for the messages that they give you in this reading to resonate and to be relevant. You don't have to have a specific memory of this time in your life. Things might come up for you naturally, and that is perfectly fine. You might already know, you might be like, yeah, no, I know what part of me is coming through today, but that's not necessary. If something here resonates, then it is for you and you can take it and you can trust that. So without further ado, let's get messages from your inner child. Let's see what they have to say to you. Group 1's inner child. What messages do you have to set Group 1 free? How can Group 1 be set free today? What messages do you have to set Group 1 free to help free them of anything from limiting beliefs to, oh, okay. Ace of Cups. Well, that definitely is a good card to come through in a reading about freedom, I believe. Ooh, okay. Is this upright or reversed? Upright or reversed? Yeah, we're going with reverse. We're going with reverse. All right. All right. Give me 3 more cards, please, inner child of Group 1. What messages do you have for Group 1 to help set them free? All right, well, you took that seriously. So we did get 3 cards all at once. We have the Fool, the King of Swords, and the 2 of Pentacles, 6 of Wands on the bottom of the deck. Let me move this over here. All right, so Ace of Cups, the Emperor reversed, the Fool, the King of Swords, and the 2 of Pentacles, Group 1. So how can we set you free, Group 1? How is your inner child setting you free today? Well, first things first, with the Ace of Cups popping up, that to me speaks of emotional freedom. Because you see, well, obviously cups are emotions. They're water. Emotions and energy and water all flow similarly. They're definitely things that are meant to flow. If you think about, a clog in a drain, for example, if that gets too backed up, the water's got to go somewhere, so it's going to burst the pipe. So I do feel like this Ace of Cups is this freeing of emotion for you because this water is flowing out of this cup so freely. So for a lot of you, I do feel like your freedom in this moment has to do with emotional release. And with the Emperor card right next to it, I am feeling like there's something potentially having to do with your father or father figure in your childhood having something to do with a reason why you might not be feeling so emotionally free right now. I feel like your inner child, the inner child that's coming through for you, might have experienced. This is either a version of you that experienced this firsthand. I feel like for most of you, that's what this is. This is the version of you that went through that is bringing that to the forefront of your mind to let you know that that's where this emotional blockage came from. Even I heard emotional unavailability for some of you. And they're letting you know that it either started at this time in your life that this inner child is coming from, which again, you don't have to know for sure. You don't have to remember. But it's either coming from this time in your life or it's coming from or that's when it was most prominent. That's when it maybe cemented itself the most, or the first time that you started to notice it as a dynamic between you and your father or in yourself. This sort of emotional unavailability, emotional repression, which I feel like is either something that you were taught to do, maybe inadvertently or purposefully, from your father figure, or a masculine figure in your life, or something that you learned through watching them. You learned through the dynamic that you had with them, or through something that they did caused you to shut down emotionally. It could be any of those things. And your inner child is saying that it is time to let that go, that you are ready to release that. And in fact, for some of you, you might have been going through a time recently. This might not be for everyone, but for some of you, you might relate to the experience of maybe having recently felt like you haven't had as much control over your emotions as you used to in the past. And you are actually feeling like things are coming up. Maybe you're crying more often than usual. Maybe you're getting angry more often than usual, and you're having trouble holding that back or holding that in. That is because basically like this stuff is all ready to escape. Like you're ready to process it and let it go and let it out. You've got a little bit of like an emotional backage, back up. Like, remember when I was talking about the clogged pipe? And I feel like that is actually like moving out of your system now. And this could have also just happened recently. Like maybe you recently had some kind of experience where you got very emotional and let a lot of things out. So if that's the case, this is letting you know that that's what that was about. And that is part of the process, as actually normal and not at all a bad thing. Although it might be difficult for some of you to accept that because you may have internalized a lot of shame around expressing your emotions or feeling your emotions in general. But I do feel like that is naturally coming to an end for you. So we have the Fool here. So that's a card of immense freedom for me. I do feel like a lot of you are being encouraged to embrace a new sense of freedom and not feeling like you have to control your emotions, but also not feeling like you have to be in control of yourself so much all the time. And when I say this, I mean that I'm getting this feeling that you could, for some of you, have some control issues that is also related to suppressing your emotions, suppressing your feelings, because those are things that are not meant to be suppressed or controlled, although there are healthy ways to express your emotions and to channel them. Yes, it's something that you want to do from a place of presence rather than a place of shame and fear and panic, right? And with the Fool, I feel like the Fool is just so much less because I feel like when you are in that kind of repressive state, you could be very avoidant, you could be very afraid of encountering certain things that trigger your emotions, and so therefore you might narrow your way of moving through the world, your way of doing life, because you feel like if you don't have that control over the things that you encounter and the people you interact with and the things that happen throughout your day to day, you will lose control in some way of your emotional state, right? Things will spiral, you will spiral, and things will get out of control. Whereas this Fool isn't worried about that, right? The Fool is cool with walking off a cliff, right? They don't even notice. They're not thinking too hard about where they're going or what's going to happen because they're not concerned. They don't have these preconceived ideas about the things that could befall them if they encounter this thing or that thing. They encounter it as they go and they deal with it in the moment and then they move on. And so that is the person that you are becoming now. You are becoming more able to do that. And one way that you are becoming more able to do that is through mastery of your mind. So your headspace, your mind might have been a very controlling figure in your life up to this moment. You might have relied a lot more on your head than your heart, your head than your emotions, and you might have put a lot more weight into that part of you. And this is not always a bad, like having a strong intellect, having a strong head is not a bad thing, but it can be something that becomes a little overbearing when that's the only part of you that you're listening to and there's other parts of you that are trying to get a word in. And I feel like with the King of Swords here, your mental mastery is not letting your mind run away with itself. So not letting your mind become this emperor in reverse, right? This harsh, demanding, controlling ruler, but rather recognizing that your mind is a finely honed tool, something that you can use to your benefit. And so I'm getting the sense that if there's been some times where you've been stuck in rumination, you've been stuck in trying to figure things out that you aren't figuring out because they're not things that can actually be figured out or that need to be figured out, you are starting to let that go, and you're being encouraged to be aware of that and to start to let that go, to cultivate a healthy mind space. So there might be some books or practices that you're encountering or that could be helpful to you to create a healthy mind space. Your mental health is an important part of your self-care too. I feel like for some of you, a self-care routine is very important, and you might be someone who's very good at like the physical aspect of that. Like maybe you're very good at keeping a sleep routine or being on top of what you're eating. And if you're not, this is definite encouragement to pay attention to that, because your body and mind are the same thing. They are connected. They are part of one another. And so a healthy body is a healthy mind and vice versa. But where you may struggle is actually noticing how your thoughts can lead to you self-sabotaging sometimes, maybe getting in the way of you actually doing what you know is healthy for you. Your thoughts can also drain you. It's almost like either you have like this, or maybe simultaneously you have like this backup of emotion that needs to flow free, that is like clogged and needs to basically like be let out, and then also this like leakage of energy where your energy is going to ruminating repetitive thoughts that don't actually go anywhere and don't serve you, but it's just wasting your energy, right? And so I feel like this King of Swords here is this getting rid of that, basically like fine-tuning your mind so that it's not running so much background software. And that will look different for all of you. I feel like for some of you, this is a process that you've been working on. This is a journey that you've been on. And so you might be doing a lot better than you think in that area. But getting a clear mind, getting a clear intellect is something that it's an individual journey for everyone, right? So maybe some of you relate to having some neurodivergent tendencies. Maybe you have some kind of mental health diagnosis, right? There could be different medications or methods that are best for you, and only you will know that, right? Ways of clearing your mind that work for one person might not work the same way for you, but that doesn't mean that there's not a way for you to relate to your mind in a healthier way than you do now. So that's an important thing, because I feel like some of you could get especially if you have some kind of diagnosis or something like that, you could get stuck in the mindset of, oh, well, I'm just going to be this way forever. This is just how I am, and it sucks. And while that's totally understandable, especially depending on the experiences that you've had, and you know your own experience, you know what you've been through and how it affects you in your life, there is always a way to accommodate yourself, as long as you are willing to be gentle with yourself, understanding with yourself, even if society or other people aren't willing to be. Sometimes you have to be that person for you and make the appropriate accommodations, you know? Some of you might find that you have trouble, that your mind is negatively impacted when you are trying to force yourself to behave in a way that you think is quote unquote normal, or that you should be able to do, which just looks like you forcing yourself to maybe do something like go out and socialize or do something just because you feel like, oh, a normal person, quote unquote, would do that and would be able to deal with it and wouldn't have all these issues or problems doing this. So I should pretend like I'm fine doing this too, and I don't need any help or accommodations, when really a few simple accommodations would actually make the whole experience a lot easier for you. So if you were to give in, so to speak, put aside your pride and allow yourself to ask for certain help that you need, or maybe even not do the thing that you were going to do just out of obligation, you might find that you feel a lot better, a lot faster. And you realize that there's no shame in doing things a little differently than other people. There's no shame in needing a little help or in just seeing life differently, experiencing life differently, and owning that. And that will, I feel like being more mindful of that, being more mindful of your own specific, you don't even have to think of it as like you being different from other people. Everyone is different from everyone. So think of it as not what do I need as a person with X, Y, and Z needs, unless that's helpful to you. Just think of it as like, what do I need as an individual person? Because I am different than everyone else, just like everyone else is different from everyone else. So in this moment, like, what is right for me? And take it moment by moment, day by day, and don't believe in narratives that tell you that there's something wrong with the way that you are, because that's not true. And that might have been something that you learned from a young age. That might have been something that you were taught or simply believed because you were different from the people you grew up around. But it is okay to be who you are, and I feel like you are learning that, and this version of you is setting you free from the belief that there's a problem with you needing to live your life the way that you are most comfortable living it, and that feels healthiest for you. Yeah. As well, when it comes to this King of Swords, it might also behoove you to see a mental health practitioner if you haven't, if you're not someone who has done that, but you feel like that would be a helpful step on your mental health journey. Or maybe some ways of, meditating or doing some kind of energy healing or exercising, anything that, experiment with whatever helps your mind feel the most peaceful, the most at ease, or the most organic to you. Whatever feels the most organic and natural and healthy to you, experiment with different practices that get you in this King of Swords mind space. I do feel like that is really important for you when it comes to just feeling good, and also allowing any of these, I feel like, with the King of Swords here, like honing your mental space, it's almost like that, and clearing your mind of whatever stuff is not supposed to be there, right? That doesn't mean you have to have a completely clear mind. I don't mean like a blank mind, you're not thinking about anything. For some people, if that's achievable, cool, go for it. But I mean like less crowded, less noisy, more honed in on exactly who you are, how you think, and what your thoughts are, rather than crowding it with all these other ideas and thoughts and ruminations that aren't meant to be there, right? And that, because it's your crown chakra, your third eye and your crown chakra, those are your top chakras, right, in your head. And it's almost like the idea that your emotions or your energy is trying to flow up and out of you, flow up and out like it's doing in this cup. Kind of I guess Kundalini energy is supposed to flow up and then out, kind of like a fountain out of your head. And it's unblocking your mind, then lets all of your energy, all of your emotions just flow out easily, and it just gets everything running again. And it's you're a well-oiled machine, right? We just need to kind of clean out some of that machinery, get in there and just do a little maintenance. That's what we're talking about here. For some of you, thinking of yourself as a car, if you're really into cars, think of it as maintaining your vehicle. Your body is really important. Your mind is really important. Those are part of your vehicle. And so you don't have to think of maintenance as, oh, well, why am I not already a well-oiled machine? I should just be like this all the time. It's no, in order to have a car that keeps running well, you have to actively keep up with taking care of it. So think of it as you actively keeping up with taking care of your vehicle, taking care of your car, taking care of your body and your mind. That is just part of having one, right? And so maybe for some of you, you were stuck in this way of thinking where you thought of taking care of yourself mentally and emotionally and physically as soft or weak, or something that you shouldn't have to do, and a sign of a flaw within you that you even have to take care of yourself. The fact that you ever got emotional or tired or irritable or angry, or the fact that you ever felt or experienced any kind of mental illness or physical illness, you felt that was a sign of weakness, or something that you shouldn't be experiencing, and a flaw in your system. It's no, it just is what happens when there's normal wear and tear of everyday life, and there are practices that you can do to help prevent certain things from happening. There's practices that you can do to help yourself feel better, to get your system up and running again. But also, it's an inherent failure or flaw in the system, that things happen, that things change over time, that maintenance is required, and it's okay if certain things break down from time to time. Do your best to take care of yourself as you go, and know that if things come up that are unexpected, you don't have to make it mean that there's something wrong with you or that you failed in some way anymore. Like this fool, you'll handle it when you get there. You'll deal with it when you get to it. You don't have to over control. You don't have to predict everything that's going to happen. Just in the moment, what do you need? Take care of that, and do your best every single day to just be with yourself and let life flow around you. And last but not least, the Two of Pentacles here, which I did not talk about yet. I do feel like that it's kind of like what I just said about like your day-to-day balancing of your self-care with just living your life, taking care of your maintenance, and also just letting life happen, right? Juggling those kinds of things, balancing those kinds of things. It's like, find that balance for you that works of, okay, like I'm going to do this now because I know this will help me maintain my health and my mental space better, while also not feeling like, oh my God, okay, like I need to do this, and this, and if I don't, then the whole world is going to fall apart. And see if you can find a happy medium for yourself where you're both able to just be this happy-go-lucky free fool person who just goes from moment to moment and doesn't need to control or think too far ahead, and yet at the same time, do what you gotta do. Do what you know is healthy for you, and do your best, and trust that that is what you are doing. And if you get sick, if you have a bad day, if you have a moment that just doesn't feel right, that's okay. Everything is okay. It's all okay. And part of your self-care is that radical acceptance of like, hey, like this might feel really bad right now, but it's going to be okay. I'm going to be with myself through the whole process, and we'll get through it. And just let it unfold from there. Yeah. I do feel like for a lot of you, the TLDR is going easier on yourself than what might have been the dynamic with you and your parent, especially father figure growing up. Or even if it wasn't specifically like your father figure, there is something here about just having trouble going easy on yourself and seeing things as a sign of weakness that really aren't. And I do feel like, you're ready to let that go. You're moving beyond that point. So group one's inner child. Is there anything else before we go that you want to say to group one? Is there anything else important that you want to let group one know, group one's inner child? Aww. Okay, and I'm just going to shuffle up one more. This is so sweet. Oranges. Oranges could be important. Also peaches, even though those are meant to be oranges. It's just giving peach, so peach could be important. Yeah. Okay. So we have these two. Interesting, we have black and white, and then we have this like pink and orange and red and all that. So this card says, you can't know joy unless you've known sorrow. Those who can soar to the highest heights can also plunge to the deepest depths. From Anne with an E by Miss Stacy, which is a really good quote. And I feel like that's a reminder that it's okay to have your ups and downs, right? That's that radical acceptance of the times when you're feeling really good and things are going smoothly and you're just like, yeah, this is a good day, this is a good time. And then those days when you're just feeling off your game, those moments when you feel like, oh, like I shouldn't have eaten that, or oh, like it's hard to get out of bed today and like do the things I want to do usually and just feeling off my game. It's like sometimes you just need those days to remind you how good the good days feel, and that's okay. And it's not a sign of failure. It's life. It's part of life. And it's also something to keep in mind if you're someone who feels like you've gone through, especially maybe for this inner child, maybe that's a something that you've learned since that time in your life, or that you learned at that time in your life, that even if you have a difficult time that you went through in your past, right? maybe you're coming out of that now, and maybe you are learning that it's okay to be happy now. Sometimes it can feel hard to let go of difficult emotions from the past because it almost feels like losing a part of you, or like losing a part of your identity at times, or losing who you are. But those emotions, that time in your life, aren't who you are. They're part of your journey, but they aren't who you are. You are always who you are. No matter if you're up or you're down or you're sideways, you're always who you are. There's a part of you that is just always you. And so you never lose yourself. Even if you feel like you do, you never lose yourself. You're always right here. And you're just experiencing different parts of your journey. There's so many dimensions of you that exist, and they are all allowed to exist. And we have this quote, which says, "I love you, I'm glad I exist," which is so sweet. This is from The Orange by Wendy Cope. It's a poem. And it's just about like love and just feeling love and being happy to exist. And in the context of the poem, it is about, it seems like it's about a new romantic love, and just like feeling that feeling of like, oh, like I love this person, and it's a new relationship and everything feels new and great and wonderful. And just like every little thing day to day just feels so good because I love this person. But this is you saying this about you. I love you. I'm glad I exist. You are telling you that you are glad you exist. And maybe for some of you, you weren't always so glad to exist. So this part of you is telling you, I'm glad that you stuck it out. I'm glad that we're still around. I'm glad that we exist. And I'm proud to be you. Which is so sweet. Oh. And I do feel like that could be relevant for some of you who aren't sure if a younger version of you would be proud of who you are today, or would be happy with who you are today. They are. It doesn't matter where you're at, who you are, what you're doing. They are. They're happy to be you. They're proud of you for all the things that you may or may not see about yourself that are really wonderful and worth being proud of. And yeah, they just love you, which is so sweet. Okay, so that's all we have, group 1. I really hope that resonated and was helpful for you. I hope you feel freer than you did before. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. I would love to know how this resonated, what you thought of this format. And also, if you're interested in a personal tarot reading, we do offer those on our website, sunflowerphilosophy.com. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. And we also do hypnosis and human design services as well. So you can feel free to check those out too if you want. Thanks again for watching. Have a wonderful life, and I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye! Hi, group 2. If you selected this lizard flesh and the 9 of Cups card, then you're in the right place. And this is your reading with a message from your inner child to set you free. So in case you missed it, if you skipped the group selection for some reason, I did go into a little description of who this inner child could be. And so I went through some potential aspects that came through when I was reading this card and talking about the lizard. So you might, if you missed that, want to go back and take a listen to that to just hear what I said. Not all the messages have to resonate with you. It doesn't have to be exactly who you are, or not all of them have to be relevant to you, but it's just some more information that might be interesting. So if you missed that, feel free to go check that out in the group selection reading breakdown portion. But if you're ready to just get into this reading, what we are going to do today, as I said in the intro, is just get some messages from this tarot deck from your inner child, whichever one is coming through at this point, whichever version of you is coming through, that is meant to set you free in some way. Whatever that means to you at this time, we'll see what comes through, and we'll just keep an open mind. Now, even if you did resonate with the intro, you don't have to exactly remember what time in your life this version of you that's coming through is from. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be from a specific, even version of your inner child necessarily, and you don't have to like remember exactly what time of your life it was, or aspects of that time in your life in order for messages to resonate, right? Whatever messages come through, if they resonate with you, they're for you. So don't feel like you need to figure anything out or think too much about it. If anything, if you need to remember anything, it'll come up during the reading, but if not, just listen to the messages and feel what is meant for you. So without further ado, let's let your inner child speak. Group 2's inner child. What messages do you have for Group 2 to help set them free at this time? The Hierophant. Okay. What messages do you have for Group 2 to help set them free? I'm going to do 5 cards, so. All right. We have the Three of Cups. That one popped out very enthusiastically. I do feel like there's like an enthusiastic energy here. We have the Eight of Pentacles, the Five of Swords. Those came out together. And then we have, the Six of Cups and the Queen of Cups. And I'm going to put them one on top of the other because they really did pop out together. So, all right. Queen of Pentacles on the bottom of the deck, by the way, which I don't think we're going to get into, but just in case that's important for anyone. But I'm going to put that off to the side. We're going to focus on these cards here. So, first of all, Hierophant coming out. Okay. Some of you, education might be important. So some of you could be in school, maybe in college in a master's degree in some kind of continuing education, or maybe you're just an eternal learner, an eternal student. But there is a specific message for those of you who are actually pursuing some kind of education right now, to make sure that you're also spending time having fun and making friends, hanging out with your friends, just enjoying yourself. So there is a bit of work-life balance. Even if you're not pursuing higher education, but if you're like if you're working, you could be a teacher, you could be doing something of a spiritual nature, a spiritual leader, someone who is working with clients, someone who's working with other people, someone who's used to working with people in a capacity where you are leading them or showing them the way or helping them understand themselves better in some way, shape, or form. Maybe that's how you're used to relating to people. I do feel like your inner child is reminding you to also relate to people on an even level playing field so that you can just have fun and let go. And so what I mean is the difference between seeing a client and hanging out with your friends. Maybe sometimes for you that energy sort of gets crossed. Maybe sometimes you find yourself trying to treat your friends as if they're your clients as well. Maybe you find yourself almost being like the de facto mother of a group or the therapist of a group. Whatever your gender is, doesn't matter. But you're being reminded to also not do that. To maybe find more, find it within yourself to kick back, relax, and just have a good time and put responsibilities aside. Yeah, work-life balance definitely coming through here. Really having energetic boundaries and literal boundaries with when you are working and focused on studies, on education, on spirituality, even spiritual learning, on teaching, on being there for people. I do feel like this Hierophant is you in a lot of ways, like this wise person, this leader in some way. But then there's also having fun. And also with the Eight of Pentacles here, doing your own thing, working on your own thing. I feel like the Three of Cups and Eight of Pentacles is the balance between going out and having a good time with other people and then also being on your own, focusing in on your work, doing your stuff, and no distractions, just being really focused. And these might be two competing energies for you right now, but you are meant to balance those out, to have both of those in your life. And something with the Five of Swords that came through is almost like this competition. You might feel like you're in competition with what you could be a bit competitive in nature, maybe with people around you. But I also felt like this idea of being in competition with yourself, almost like you're trying to prove something to yourself, one up yourself in some way. And that might lead you to have trouble letting go of your work outside of work, or letting go of the mindset that you always have to be working on something. There could also be an underlying idea that you always know best, or you always have to be on, you always have to be on top, you always have to know what you're doing, and maybe not trusting other people to meet you on that same level, and therefore putting you in this kind of caretaker mode where you feel like you always have to be the one who's the therapist, or the person who just knows best, the person who knows better than everyone else. And I don't think it's necessarily an ego thing of like, oh, I'm just better than everyone. It might just be a default mode because you're so used to being in this kind of hierophant leadership energy. But I do feel like this version of you, this child version of you, is like, it's time to let go. It's time to have fun. It's time to balance both of those aspects of yourself, because I almost feel like that is going to actually help you. Like, and I don't want to say this because it's like not about work. It's not about helping other people. It's literally about focusing on you. But at the same time, I do feel like this will actually help you, like, give to people more. It will help you give more wisdom, have more wisdom to give. Like with the Six of Cups and the Queen of Cups, I feel like the Six of Cups has a figure like handing someone else a cup with a beautiful flower in it. And it's like, it can have to do with the past. I do feel like for some of you, this is, with the Queen of Cups here and then the Queen of Pentacles is on the bottom of the deck, there is a mother energy that could be significant. So this could have to do with your relationship with your mother or mother figure, or the like your female ancestral line. You could be a mother, or you could just resonate with like that feminine archetype no matter what your gender is. And I feel like that could be significant. That could be why this is coming up. But I almost feel like this is also saying that the more that you are able to like balance these different personas that I almost feel like you have, the more that each, like, your playful side will help your leadership, like spiritual leader or like helper or like teacher or student side. Like, I also feel like all like the Six of Cups could also be this version of you coming through to be like, no, you sit down, let me teach you. Because I didn't intend necessarily to talk too much about this version of you in case like some of you didn't resonate with the description in the group selection, or just because I already talked about it a lot. But I did get the sense that this version of you that's coming through for most of you is a part of your childhood that was very happy, that you were very satisfied with life, that you were just like very playful and in the moment and just like happy with, like, I'm getting the feeling like a child who's like happy with all their toys. And it doesn't matter if you had like a whole bunch of really cool toys, or you just like to play with like sticks and rocks and stuff outside and like that was the most fun for you. I feel like you could do, like, you were happy with whatever you had to make do with. You were happy with with whatever you had to like use around you. And so I feel like that like uncomplicated contentment is an energy that you're being asked to tap back into, because it is an important part. It's not just like important because it's like healthy for you. It's like an important part of your work. Like, your health is part of your work. Your playful attitude is part of your spirituality and part of your ability to help people. And yeah. And I think with the Five of Swords here, it's like there could be an energy of feeling like you have to prove yourself. It's like your inner child is saying you're taking yourself a little too seriously. This is play. Even when you're working, you're playing. You don't have to prove anything. If a little bit of friendly competition now and then with yourself or other people is fun for you, that's one thing. But if you start to take it too seriously, if things start to feel a little too complicated, a little too serious, when it doesn't need to be, back it up, and realize that you can just have fun. You can just have fun with it. What you're doing, there can be a lot of creativity to it, a lot of enjoyment, a lot of just, like, I'm feeling like the Eight of Pentacles, someone who is engaging in some kind of craftsmanship, in some kind of hands-on activity where even if you're doing something for a job, you're enjoying the process of it and maybe getting a little creative with it, having a little fun with it, and not feeling like you have to just perform. It's not about the results, it's about the process. Yeah. And yeah, I feel like this comes down to taking yourself a little less seriously and allowing yourself to like come down a peg or two. Like I said, if you are used to being the person who needs to be on the ball, on top of things, to advise others, you're being asked to recognize that you don't need to always be in that role. You don't have to always see yourself as like, okay, I'm the one who knows. I'm the only one who knows. I'm the only one who can tell us what to do, can direct other people. It's like, no, actually, you're not, and you don't have to see yourself that way. Sometimes you can just be the silly, goofy, have fun kind of person. And if someone needs your help, they will come to you, the opportunity will present itself, and it will happen naturally, but you don't have to be on all the time doing something that is really an important part of maybe you, your identity, your life, even your purpose, so to speak, but it's not all that you're here to do. And so when you wear that hat, I'm feeling like this Hierophant is this Hierophant when they put on their robe and their special hat and like they're in that special setting. That's when they're this like spiritual leader. That's when they're this person, advisor, whatever. But when they take it off, they're just anyone else. They're just having a good time. So you might just need like a balance between the different personas that you take on in your life, and to understand that like sometimes you're wearing your mom hat, sometimes you're wearing your therapist hat, sometimes you're wearing your friend hat. But if you're not wearing that hat, don't force it on your head just because, or don't keep it on just because like you're just used to being in that mode. Really like intentionally only do that intentionally, right? Save your energy for those moments where you're in that setting or where you feel truly called to. So it's kind of like with these tarot readings, I do have like a little ritual of just like, I'll like open sacred space and then I'll close that, and at the end, even just quickly, I'll just be like, okay, like I close this reading off, and then I don't allow myself to think about it after the fact. I don't continue like ruminating on how the reading went and all that. Like I cut off that energy and I'm just done with it. And it took me a little while to learn to do that because I used to just kind of like, ooh, like I was like buzzing with so much energy and I would just keep thinking about it. And it's like, no, like I need to actually like, I'm done. I'm not, I'm reading my tarot cards, and then after that, I'm done. And I'm not a tarot reader in that moment. I'm just going off and living the next part of my life. I feel like that is something that your inner child is asking you to do so that you can feel more free when you're not in those certain settings where you have to wear that certain hat. To just play, to be more satisfied, and to realize that you can have meaningful and impactful interactions with people through just play and non-serious fun. And sometimes that's when the best wisdom gets conveyed and you weren't even trying and you didn't even know, right? And I feel like that is important for you. And it's also a form of self-compassion as well, because I do feel like with this kind of energy, when you are used to being in that mode of like, okay, I've got to be there for other people, being there for yourself feels almost selfish. But your inner child, first of all, this also, I feel like this is your inner child, like handing you this cup, like your inner child is part of you that is here for you now. You listening to this reading is you being here for yourself. That's not selfish at all. You are literally just like, you are you. If you were meant to be someone else, you would be someone else. Like, right? Like if you were meant to be the primary, like, caretaker, and like I know that like you might have to take care of other humans physically, and like that might be part of like your life and what you do. But I mean, like, still, you are you because you are your own responsibility. You are meant to be taking care of you. Like you are the first. Like you can't escape really being your first priority. You can't be anyone else. So like, almost like think of it as like you are taking care of you. Like you are your own primary caregiver, right? You are that person for you. And so you know when you need some time to play, you know when you need to focus, you know when it's time to get serious, and you know when it's time to just be silly goofy and let yourself do that, right? Like you would do with a child who, sometimes a kid just needs to be a kid and go out and have fun, and like you don't need to like freak out too much if they like get a little dirty or whatever. Just like let them be. And then there's sometimes when, it's kind of like, okay, like we need to be serious right now. Let's, this is a different setting, and you teach them that. It's like you need to teach yourself to just be like, okay, this is silly goofy time. This is focus time. This is, I've got my big serious hat on time. This is, my relaxing time, my rest time. and let yourself exist in all those different forms, and like know that that's okay. And know that like if you are meant to take care of someone else, they will come across you when it's most needed, and you will know, and it won't be something that you have to force, and won't be something that you have to sacrifice for. You will just naturally, like, they will just naturally fit into that part of your life. Like, yeah, you don't, I feel like for some of you, maybe like you sometimes get so serious about things, like you go looking for things to help people with, or you go looking for ways to be of service, when maybe that's not what you're meant to be doing. Maybe you just do that naturally. Maybe just by being you are of service, right? Maybe in any given moment, by being you, like you'll stumble into those opportunities, but you don't have to force it. You don't have to make it happen. You don't have to take yourself or life so seriously. So with that group 2, let's get some quote cards. As I said, I hope I said that at the beginning of this, whatever. We're going to get some quote cards with further messages from your inner child to just close things out. So group 2's inner child, what other messages do you have for group 2? What else do you have for group 2? Okay. And let's see if we can get one more. Group 2's inner child. What further messages do you have for group 2? What further messages do you have for group 2? Okay. So we have these 2 cards. So for this one, first of all, noticing that we have all these different scenes and different things and colors in these little bubbles here. So I feel like that's what I was talking about when I was talking about like sort of protecting your energy, like setting the intention to be in one space when you're in that space, and then cutting off that energy when you're out of that space. Like, you know, like work-life balance. Like you leave work and you are not in work mode. You don't think about work. You don't speak about work. And then when you're back at work, that's when you're focused on work. And that conserves your energy so that you can be all of who you need to be in that moment, and then move on and then be all of who you need to be in a different moment. So I feel like that is coming through in these bubbles here, like creating these energetic bubbles, these sacred spaces for you to be all the different things that you are, and also not overextend yourself. But the quote is, stress is caused by being here but wanting to be there, or being in the present but wanting to be in the future. Yeah. And I almost feel like that in this case is confirming what we just said about like being like setting the intention that you are who you are. Like you're the Hierophant when you are in that Hierophant setting. You know, maybe there's a certain outfit that you wear, there's certain jewelry that you put on when you're being a certain person, and then you take that off and you're like, okay, now I'm just relaxing me, I'm just chilling me. And that might just help you balance your life more. It might help you stop ruminating on or stressing about or thinking about things that are for, you know, Hierophant you to think about when you're actually in 3 of Cups you, right? When you're in 3 of Cups you, Hierophant you doesn't exist right now. Hierophant you will come back and will help and will work on the things that Hierophant you works on. But the reason that you're having trouble doing that when you're in 3 of Cups mode is because 3 of Cups you isn't Hierophant you and isn't meant to figure that out. 3 of Cups you is meant to have a silly, goofy, fun time. Right? So if you're like, oh, like, God, I can't figure out what I need to do for that client, because you're supposed to be in 3 of Cups you mode, and that version of you doesn't know. And if something does come to you, it'll come to you, but you don't have to be ruminating on it, thinking about it when you are out having a silly, goofy, fun time. And then we have this card here with, you have only one life, make the most of it, from Holes by Louis Sachar. Yeah, so this version of you just like, yeah, it's like, have more fun. Let's have more fun. Let's have more fun. Let's have a silly, goofy time. Let's have a fun time. Like, let yourself, you can, like, mom you can, like, watch in the corner while you go run off and have fun and, like, play in the dirt and whatnot, right? Maybe for some of you, actually doing something that you used to do for fun as a child, especially if you know what time in your life this is probably referring to, like, maybe go do that. Maybe just, like, have a little special day. Kind of like, maybe, like, try to do that, like, every single week, almost like an artist date from The Artist Way by Julia Cameron, which if that's something that you are interested in, it's kind of like a spiritual journey for creative people. There's that you can follow along with, and there's activities and suggestions of what to do, and there's different themes for each week. But there's a big overarching theme of like your inner artist being your inner child, and therefore taking care of that inner child, inner artist, and understanding it, and understanding that the things that your inner child needs are the things that adult you was told to disregard and not really take into account, and then relearning how to relate to that part of yourself. That could be helpful for you. And one of those things doing an artist date is just like doing something by yourself on your own, just for you, that is interesting or fun or whatever, that of time that's just set aside for you every week, at least an hour or so. So yeah, and it can be something that's really interesting to you now, but like for one, my first artist date that I went on was I went to the dollar store and just like bought anything that, I mean, I set a limit for myself, but I bought like anything that seemed interesting to me, and I ended up actually buying things that spoke to my inner child. Actually, the Hot Wheel car that was in the first reading was one of the things I bought because it just spoke to my inner child, and that was a really fun, cool experience, and I actually like didn't expect to be drawn to half the things that drew me in, and it brought back a lot of things I had forgotten, and it was just really nice. So that could be a fun way to connect with this part of you and connect with that more happy-go-lucky, fun-loving part. So yeah, live your life. That's what this part of you wants you to know and wants you to feel free to do. So yeah, that's it. That's all we got. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like, comment, or subscribe. I would love to know how this resonated. I would love to know what you thought about this format. And yeah, this was really fun. So if you're interested in a personal reading, we do offer those on our website, sunflowerphilosophy.com. The link is in the description. We also do hypnosis and human design services. So if you're interested in those, you can check that out. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful life, and I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye! Hello, Group 3. If you selected the Rubik's Cube and the World card, then you're in the right place, and this is your reading with a message from your inner child to set you free. Whoops. I just knocked the card off the table. Okay. So in case you missed it, first of all, in the intro/group selection, the reading breakdown, I did talk about the potential traits of this inner child. That was part of the group selection, but if for some reason you skipped ahead and you didn't watch that, you might want to go back and just check that out, because that might have some information for you about like what part of your life this is from. It just might be interesting for you to hear about the version of you that this is from. I will say though, that doesn't have to resonate in order for the message is here to resonate. It doesn't have to, you don't even have to know what part of your life these messages are coming from, what version of your inner child is coming through for the messages to resonate. So, don't think too hard about it. If you chose this and that doesn't resonate, that's fine. Just take what messages are for you. You'll know when you hear them. But I will say, if you are interested in hearing more about this energy that was coming through, go to that part of the reading. But we are going to get messages from your inner child using this tarot deck to just get messages from them about what will set you free right now. What do they have for you? What wisdom they have for you? What information do they have for you to set you free in some way in your life, whatever that looks like for you, whatever that means for you. And then we also have some quote cards over here. So I'm going to pull some quote cards for additional messages once we're done with that. And one thing I will say before I even shuffle the cards up, I was like singing a little bit to myself when I got to your group for some reason. I just like started singing, and I just feel like that could be significant for some of you. Like maybe you just like to sing. Maybe music is important for you. Or maybe you just like sing to yourself a lot like I was just doing. So you can take that as a further confirmation if that is relevant for you. But regardless, let's just get right into your messages. Let's let your inner child speak. So Group 3's inner child, what messages do you have for Group 3 to set them free? Whoa, okay. What messages do you have for Group 3 to set them free? What messages do you have for Group 3 to set them free? Group 3's inner child. Okay, we have the 5 of Cups and the High Priestess. Which order do I want to put them in? This order? Put them like this. 5 of Cups and the High Priestess together. We're gonna get like, okay, whoa. We have the Ace of Pentacles and the Page of Cups. here. And one more card, please. The Seven of Swords with the Nine of Swords on the bottom of the deck. Okay. Which I'm not necessarily gonna talk about that, but just in case that's relevant for someone, I'll keep it off to the side. I'll keep it in mind in case there's messages that come through, but we're focusing on these 5 cards here. So, but I will say there's definitely a lot of mental energy for this group. There's a bit of that coming up in group 1 as well, so that could be relevant, but group 3's inner child, setting you free. There's some kind of disappointment. I feel like there was something, okay, this could be like a general theme, like maybe a general relationship that you have with disappointment throughout your life, or there could be like a specific thing that either happened around the time that came up, that's coming up for you from your inner child, or just like that happened, it could be recent, or it could be, I don't know, something around disappointment, like something where you thought something was going to happen in a certain way and then it didn't. And maybe you lost a little bit of trust in your intuition and you thought that what was going to happen, what was growing, didn't actually grow in the way that you thought it would, or it didn't come to fruition in the way that you thought it would. So it's kind of hard for you now to maybe get your hopes up about things, or to feel like things that have promise in your life are going to actually grow and come to fruition. So, well, first of all, your inner child here, the Page of Cups could represent this part of you, actually. Like, I don't know, I'm feeling like a part of you that like believed in hope and love and beautiful things, and then like something didn't work out and then you got really cynical, like that kind of vibe, you know? Or you like you started to like overthink because you were like, oh wait, I was wrong about this, and so now you question everything that you think is real and beautiful and true, something like that. But I feel like with the Ace of Pentacles here, I feel like you might, in your current life, you might have this intuition that something that's similar to like maybe something that didn't work out in the past is going to work out this time. And you might be having trouble trusting it because it hasn't fully come to fruition yet. And you feel like, oh my God, is this going to happen the same way as it did last time? And this Ace of Pentacles with the Page of Cups here, first of all, like potential, promise, Page of Cups, surprise. This is straight up saying you might be surprised. You might be surprised where this leads. But also it's saying be curious and open rather than closed, or rather than presuming the worst. Be curious and open about everything. Like, open yourself up to all the possibilities of how things could grow, how things could unfold, and how things could happen for you. And understand that just because one road didn't take you where you thought it was going to take you, or one door didn't open, doesn't mean that another one won't, and doesn't mean that it wasn't like a stop on a path that was leading you towards something, that was leading you towards what you actually want. It just might not have been like the end all be all of that thing. It's almost like something you wanted, you didn't get in that moment, but another thing that you want is coming along that's very similar, but maybe down the line, like because you're a different person than you were when you first wanted that thing, it's a bit different. It's an upgraded version, or like a new model to fit more of what your life is like now, to fit who you are now. And it's more actually suitable to what you really want. Maybe what you want has been honed in the time since you didn't get the thing you wanted to now. Like, right? Like, if it was like some kind of toy, like going with the child theme, right? It's like there's this toy you really wanted, and you thought, okay, like I'm definitely going to get it for my birthday, or I'm definitely going to get it for Christmas. Like, this is what I want. I'm going to get it. And then you didn't. Like, say you were going to get it for Christmas, and then you didn't. But then maybe a few months later, your birthday was coming up, and you were like, oh, like, probably I'm not going to get this toy. But then you actually get, like, the new upgraded model of it, or new version of it you didn't even realize was out, and you're like, oh, wait, this is even better. I'm so glad I didn't get this for Christmas, because then I wouldn't be getting another one for my birthday. Like, I wouldn't have this version of it. I'm so happy that I actually got this version and not the one that came out last year. You know what I mean? It's almost like that. But even that example, like, I don't want to be too, I mean, maybe it's a very specific situation for some of you. Maybe that's a very almost specific metaphor for something that you're dealing with. And that does present you with a really useful way of seeing it that maybe heals something with this past disappointment that happened for you. But also it's like a general sense of going through life with more curiosity about how things will turn out and all the different ways things can unfold, and not getting so caught up in needing things to turn out a certain way in order for you to feel like everything is working out. It's kind of like just assuming that everything that happens is working out in the best possible way and letting it unfold and letting it show you why this is the best possible way for things to happen. Like asking, this came up for me recently actually. Ask the question that you want the answer to. Would you rather get the answer to the question, why is this the worst thing that could have happened for me? Or the answer to the question, why is this the best thing that could have happened for me? And if you prefer the latter, then ask that question, not the other one. For example, this came up for me when my laptop stopped working suddenly. And I was getting a little stressed about it. My mind started to go. My mind started to be like, oh my God, wait, but if my laptop stops working now, I need it for this, I need it for that, I'm going to need to get a new one, I need to spend money on it, how much is it going to cost, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Getting really ahead of myself. First of all, I had no idea what was going on with it, or even if this was going to be a long-term problem, nothing. But in the moment, I felt really upset. And I also felt like, I was in the middle of doing this or doing that. But then I was very present with myself. I was like, okay, listen. Okay, take a pause. And I just I was like, listen, you know that you never know how things are going to work out. So let's not jump to conclusions. Let's just be very present in this moment. So I was like, all right, you're allowed to feel upset about something happening to your laptop and you not being sure what's going to happen. Totally fine. Totally cool. I'm with you. Totally fine. And then I was like, let's ask some questions here. And I actually had my cards out and I used them. But I think the most important thing that I came to when I was using my cards was deciding what question to ask and realizing that the question that came to me that felt the best was, why is this the best thing to happen for me right now? And honestly, when you ask a question, the universe will answer it. And the answer for me in that moment was, it was manifold. There was the idea that there are maybe unforeseen things that will actually be really good for me coming out of this that I can't know now. But there's also the idea that in this moment, maybe it was best for me because honestly, I had spent a little too much time on YouTube that day and I really could use some time just off of it. And so it was getting around dinner time. I went to eat dinner with my family. And then I didn't go back on my laptop after dinner. I spent time with them out in the living room. And then we all ended up watching a lecture on quantum mechanics together, which was a weird thing that we decided to do, but it was very interesting and very valuable and honestly a lot more fun than anything I would have done just on my own on my laptop. So honestly, that was the best thing that could have happened for me. And now my laptop's working, but also while I was a little stressed about this, I did talk it over with my family and talked about, here are the options if you do need new equipment, especially because with a business, I do want to keep my equipment up to date. And maybe there will come a time soon when I do want to get a new laptop and I do want to maybe upgrade some of the stuff that I have. And maybe that's okay. Maybe I actually have the means to deal with that more than I thought in the moment. So I asked the question, why is this the best thing that could have happened to me? And I got a whole bunch of different answers. And there's also a lot of possibilities that, who knows, maybe you wouldn't get the answer right away, but it would come to you soon. As soon as you look for a certain kind of resolution, a certain kind of confirmation, you will find it. And so for you, that story might be a good example of how you can deal with disappointment, deal with things not working out in exactly the way that you think. Ask not, why did this happen? Why me? Why is this the worst thing that could have happened? Ask instead, why is this the best thing that could have happened? Why is this going to actually turn out amazing? And you don't have to get that answer right away. You don't have to feel amazing about the situation right away. And of course, it depends on what the situation is that you're asking this question about, right? There might be some situations where that makes more sense than others as a way of dealing with what happened in front of you. I feel like my computer laptop example is a really good example of a situation where that can work. But that just can open up the possibilities for you and open you up to the idea of possibility, the idea of surprise, the idea of how could this be leading to something actually amazing, right? Another example that's coming to me is like if you get into like an argument with your partner, or you find that you and a friend or you and a partner have a disagreement or have a differing perspective on something. And maybe it stresses you out in the moment. Maybe you're like, oh my God, is this an insurmountable difference? Is this something that we're going to be able to work through? But maybe you ask yourself, well, how could this be the best possible thing that could happen for our relationship? And maybe it's something that actually leads to a deeper conversation that you have with this person, and you work through it and you come out stronger on the other side, and you learn about yourself and about them in a way that you never had before, and it actually deepens your relationship. And like, because you come through the other side of this thing, you're like, oh wait, our relationship is even deeper and better than before, and I'm even more sure of it. And those things that might have haunted me in the past or come up and been a question of whether or not we can make it through it, now that's answered, and now I know the answer, now I know we can. And so because that happened, it's actually the best thing that could have happened for us. So that is another specific example that could maybe be relevant for someone here. But that's a new way of opening up to the possibilities. And maybe this is coming through because for some of you, maybe the thing that came through in the intro, in the group selection, about potentially having been someone who had to move around a lot or travel a lot or went through a lot of transitions, or maybe this specific version of you is like a you that was in between, right? In between like middle school and high school and college or something like that. And maybe that's coming through because there's that idea of like the unknown, right? And the idea of possibility. And that is something that part of you maybe struggled with at that time, or knew how to do well at that time, that maybe you're being asked to recall now. So then with the Seven of Swords, what is the Seven of Swords about? What is the Seven of Swords about? Okay. There's a couple things. One thing is the idea of like lying or deception. Maybe feeling like you would be lying to yourself, or you're lying to yourself if you feel like things are going to work out in a certain way. Maybe self-delusion, or like delusion a little bit is coming through, but it's like kind of like there might be some block that you might have around feeling like being optimistic about something is delusional, but that's just a perspective, right? Like, it's just a perspective. There can be a tendency, especially in our culture, to sometimes just like, I noticed this especially when I was like in writing classes in school, is there's like a default towards the more like cynical or negative perspective, but also like online culture a lot, especially as well. The default towards the cynical as like the real, like, oh, that's the real world. Welcome to the real world. This is the real world. Here it's like gritty and like everything sucks and like everyone is like the worst and like everything is lying to you and anything good is actually bad, right? But that's just like a perspective. Like that is a world that you can live in, but that in and of itself is also a delusion. Like if oh, like, this could be great, this could be amazing, this could be wonderful, why is this the best thing that could have happened to me, whatever. If all that is delusion, like the opposite is also delusion. Like, so pick your poison, right? Pick your poison. And so there is nothing wrong with deciding to look at things in a different way, right? Five of Cups is all about perspective, right? This person's looking at this Five of Cups being like, oh my God, these spilled, this is the worst thing ever. But they don't see that they've got these two perfectly good full cups behind them. Maybe those two full cups are actually like, maybe whatever's in them is actually even better than what was in those 3 cups. And maybe you don't need 3 cups. Maybe those 2 cups just get the job done, whatever it is. I don't know. This is metaphorical. Just get the job done in a way that the 3 cups wouldn't have. And maybe that's the point, you know? Right? And so just turn around. Look at things in a new way. I also am getting, and this kind of goes along with that, take control of your thoughts. It's up to you. You don't need anyone else's permission to tell you how to think. You don't need me. You don't need someone else. But it's the idea that sometimes if you're shifting your mindset, say you're like, you know, I'm gonna be a little more optimistic, you know, maybe I have trouble being optimistic about this. Maybe I'm a little more cynical, but you know, I think that would help me in this case, right? Like, let me just be a little bit more of an optimist. And then you like go into some kind of forum, or you like enter into some kind of like conversation where there's like a lot of cynicism happening, and then that makes you feel like stupid for who you're trying to be and for just like being different. It's like, but that's them, not you. Like you can respect someone and also be like, but I'm not going to take that belief on. Like that's not going to be me. And you can also be like, you know what, that's not for me. Like you can make that, like, that's honestly like a stronger, more self-respecting thing to do than just automatically berating yourself because someone else said that you're silly and stupid, right? Like that's, if you want to look at it that way. And I feel like some of you might be a little, you might be a little hard on yourself too. And so maybe group 1 is relevant for you. But I do feel like maybe some of you need to hear that like it's pretty weak-willed to let someone else shame you into just like being miserable. You know what I mean? Like it's actually a really strong, self-respecting person that is able to say, you know what, you can have your perspective, but I'm going to take mine and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to have a good time. And I get to decide. I get to decide what this means for me. And I feel like this is you like protecting your own thoughts, protecting your own mind from that framework and being like, oh, and yeah, it's like you taking what is valuable to you and leaving the rest. So like being discerning with the feedback that you get from the world around you and being like, ooh, you know what? This person has some really cool ideas. I like that. But then they also say that other thing doesn't resonate with me. So I'm going to take those ideas that are really cool and I'm going to leave that other idea. And it's like not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? And I feel like that does, in a weird way, fit in with what I was just saying about like, you know, maybe not taking on other people's cynical thoughts if you are looking to be a little bit more open and playful and optimistic about the world, right? Maybe there's a lot of people that you interact with that have a lot of cynical tendencies, but you also enjoy your time with that you spend with them, or they have some cool ideas, or they have some interesting stuff that's been helpful for you. You can take that interesting stuff, you can take those cool ideas, but you also don't have to take on their cynicism. It's like you don't have to take the whole package, right? You can pick and choose. This is you picking and choosing. This is you deciding that's for me and that's not, and realizing that like that's cool. You don't have to. Sometimes there's this feeling like, in order to be the kind of person, like if you admire someone and look up to them, like it's like the idea of like someone who thinks that in order to be an artist, they need to be like depressed and miserable because their favorite artist just happened to be a depressed and miserable person. And it's almost like connecting the idea that like they were depressed and miserable with their creativity and their creative drive and like why they were able to create the things that they were. But that's not necessarily true. Like, perhaps it's true that you could take inspiration from their art and their creativity and then also say, but I'm going to be a happier person than they are. Like, I'm going to believe that I can be my own unique creative, and create my own unique things and be brilliant in my own way without taking on the tragic elements of their life that I don't need to take on, right? It's that. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. It's discernment. It's really understanding what's you and what's other people and being sovereign in yourself to be you, to protect your thoughts, to protect and to take what's yours and leave what's not, and to know the difference. And really the difference is like what feels good to you and feels right, and then what doesn't, and just literally deciding, being strong enough to say, I'm not going to be shamed into thinking that I need to believe all of those things. It's the same with like any spiritual or religious doctrine too. Like maybe you look up to a certain way of believing or a certain spiritual guru or speaker, and then they do something and you don't necessarily agree with that one thing that they did, but then you're like, oh my God, wait a second. Like, do I need to accept that? Do I need to be that in order to be the person I want to be because of all these other things that they said that I agreed with? No, you don't. You can be your own guru. You can be your own spiritual leader. You can be your own decider. And you can decide, that's not for me. But this is, and that is, and that's okay. And you can let them be them while you are over here being you. Yeah. And I think that's really what this version of you wants you to understand. I mean, I went on a little bit of a tangent about like cynicism and not letting that impede your ability to imagine the possibilities that are available to you in your life. But in general, it like, where was I going with that? I don't even know where I was going with that. Well, you can imagine all the different possibilities of where I was going with that, and pick your favorite, I guess. But you know what? Let's just get into the quotes. Any further messages from your inner child self? Because yeah, I think it's time for that. So, group 3's inner child self. Any further messages? Anything to add to what we just talked about? Anything else you want to say to group number 3 to help set them free? Let's shuffle it up one more time because that didn't pop out. What? Oh, okay. Words. And then we have group number. Yeah, it's really this idea that's coming through that like you decide what things mean to you. And you decide if something's going to be the best thing that ever happened to you or not. And like you're free to just make that decision and then let the world show you. Like you decide first and then the world shows you why like whatever's happening is great, or why you're amazing, or why this thing is working out the best way it possibly can. Like you set that bar and then the universe meets you there and is like, yep, you're so right, buddy. You're so right. Okay, and one more quote for group number. Okay, well, that's a lot, but we'll take these two. So, words and feel. Oh, that's so funny that you got a card that both of your cards have words on the front instead of just an image. And one says words and then one says feel. So let's look at words first. So we have, if you have big ideas, you have to use big words to express them, haven't you? From Anne with an E. I do feel like that plays nicely with what we were talking about with asking the question that you want the answer to. Being creative with your words, how you talk to yourself, how you talk to other people, and how you talk about things in life, right? Asking, why is this the best thing that could ever happen to me? Why was this a great day? Why is this actually an amazing car? I don't know why that came through. Like the idea that like maybe you have a car that like maybe it's not like the best car in the workshop, but in the workshop, what the fuck? I don't know, a car might be important. Maybe some of you are also from group 1. But like, yeah, maybe like you don't have like the flashiest car around, but like asking why it's actually the perfect car for you, you might be surprised with the answers you come up with, and you might be surprised as to where it leads you, you know? Could even lead you to an even better car down the line. But like, yeah, be creative with your words. And also this is your inner child also letting you know that like speaking some things aloud, saying some things might set you free. So like, for example, if there is something maybe there's something specific, right, that you experienced a disappointment about when you were younger. Maybe you have a new chance to make something happen that didn't come to fruition back in the day. Maybe there's a way that you need to express yourself in order to make something happen. If there's a conversation you need to have, words you need to say, something that you want to get out in some way or another, this is your inner child encouraging you to do so, and saying that it's okay if you need to like plan something out or like write something out for yourself. It takes some time to really consider the words that you want to use to convey a certain thing. Like take your time, feel it out, figure it out, and then express it in some way, whether you're journaling or whether there's a conversation you need to have with someone in your life, or whether there's maybe value in like talk therapy or something like that, or some kind of artistic expression, poetry, getting your words out there, talking on YouTube, something like that. If you got ideas to express them, right? This is your inner child really wanting you to just like, again, be open to all the possibilities. And so like make that first move. Make the first move. I don't know what you're making the first move in. Make the first move. Presume that whatever move you make is going to work out in the best way possible, and then make that move, and then let events following show you why that is the best way that it could possibly work out. And don't have too tight of a hold on a specific outcome. Like trust that whatever outcome is happening will be the best one, and you'll eventually understand why. Yeah. And then we have feel, and this says, know yourself as nothing. feel yourself as everything, from Alan Watts. Now, in context, I have no idea exactly what he meant by this because I don't recall what this is actually specifically from. But know yourself as nothing, feel yourself as everything. Yes, when you're opening up to possibilities, you're playing like fast and loose with what you actually know, right? Because if you feel like you know yourself as I am X, Y, and Z, then you're limiting yourself from being A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and all the other things that you could possibly be, all the other things that could possibly happen. So this is you not limiting yourself by what you know about yourself, being more flexible with what you know, and feeling your way through things a bit more, feeling yourself, honestly, like releasing like your thoughts a little bit and getting more into your feeling and what you're experiencing in your feelings in any given moment. But also I feel like it's feeling yourself as everything by like, it's hard to vocalize even what I want to say, because this is something that I feel like is describing something that's just an experience that you have to kind of have. And it's hard to actually express it, which is funny because we were talking about expressing things with words. There is something there about being moved by feeling and allowing yourself to be moved by feeling. So expressing what you're feeling in words might also help in this process as well. And getting more in touch with that and being able to put words to that experience, while also understanding that words inherently limit. So choose them wisely, because if you're limiting yourself when using your words, you want to at least be limiting yourself in a way that feels good. Again, like when you're saying, why is this the best thing that ever happened to me? You might be limiting yourself in that maybe you can't also be asking why it's the worst thing. Or maybe like, maybe those cancel each other out, but it's like, if you would rather it be the best thing, then yeah, limit it to being the best thing, right? Like that kind of thing. And so I guess in that, it's kind of like feel your way towards the conclusion that you want to draw. Like what feels good to you. And from that feeling of what feels right and what feels good, that's how you create your mental knowing. Like you're like, ooh, it feels good to assume that everything is working out. Therefore, I know everything is working out, right? As opposed to the other way around. You feel it first, and then you're like, this means that everything is awesome. And then you go from there and you work from that assumption, right? And you feel, it's like you're creating your reality before it happens by just saying, this is what it is. Show me why it is what it is. Like, this is what it is. I feel it. I know it. And I just know. And then let that unfold for you. Like, literally, you're speaking things into existence through that. And I also just got a, like, last minute message of, like, if you're, say you, like, it's like this idea of like you're planting some kind of seed and you don't know what the seed is going to grow into yet. It's kind of like it could be anything. But when you plant it into the ground, you get to speak to it. And as you speak to it, you get to tell it all the things that it could possibly be, and then watch it grow and watch how it responds to those words and watch how it shapes itself around those words and how those words help it expand, and how as you watch it grow, you get more inspired to tell the story and expand its story even more. And then suddenly it grows into this like thing beyond what you even imagined it would be when you first planted the seed, right? Yeah. And where it grows you couldn't have predicted from that first moment, but you continually tended to it and told it its story as it was growing. So you informed its identity. You told it who it was, the seed that's been growing. And yet at the same time, you also responded to it as it was growing and let it unfold naturally as well. So there was this like both it growing and interpreting your words, and then you responding to that interpretation and creating from there, and just like this, and that's like co-creation with the universe. That's that creation energy of like you communicate with the universe, it communicates back with you. Based on that, you communicate back, and you just like play off each other, and you're like partners almost in that process. Interesting. Wow. Yeah. And yeah, I want to close this out because we're pretty much done, but there's one more thing. Like that brings me back to this high priestess of like intuition. Using your intuition not to tell you what is going to happen, but rather to inform you, like, it's almost like your intuition can tell you, okay, like, here's a likely outcome. And then if you are like, cool, I like that outcome, continue on that trajectory. And if you're like, you know what, I'm not a fan of that outcome, you can change that outcome by telling it to be different, telling a different story. And you can play with that. It might take some time to learn how to do that, but that's, it's like a manifestation technique of like your intuition can tell you certain trajectories. Like your intuition can be true and right, but that doesn't mean that like the future is not set in stone. The future can always change, and so you can always change. And so that's why you don't need to get too hung up on always being right and like knowing something before it's going to happen also kind of creates that thing, right? So if you're like, oh my God, I know this is going to happen, and you don't want that to happen, but you're like, oh my God, it's going to happen. Like, it's more likely for that thing to happen because you act in accordance as if that is actually what is happening because you just know it, right? But then if you're like, wait a second, like, okay, I'm getting a sense this could happen, but anything could happen. So maybe I'll change the story around it, and that will change the whole entire outcome, right? So instead of feeling like, because sometimes you feel like, oh, my intuition told me, so it has to happen. Or sometimes you feel like, well, I want to trust my intuition, so like I kind of almost want it to happen because I want to know that I'm right and know that I can trust my intuition. It's like, no, like you create the future, but you can still use your intuition as a tool to sense what trajectory is happening in the moment and then be like, okay, is it cool with me? No? All right, let's change that, tell a different story, right? Like work with it in a very flexible way, right? Your intuition is not set in stone, but it's something that can help you just like note where you are in the moment, and then like you can play with that. You can be creative with it. Be like, you know, your intuition might lead you in one direction, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, now we're over here. Because once I got in that direction, I was like, this looks good. And then you go over there. Like, you wouldn't have gotten there if you didn't go where your intuition, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not always like A to Z, and then you see the steps B, C, D, E, whatever in the middle. Like, you kind of have to like, it's almost like you have to go from A and then to B to then C. Oh wait, there's like another option. There's E here, and there's F here, and there's G here, and then all of a sudden you see those options, and then you pick G, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, there's H, and there's I. Okay, there's I. Okay, there's J, and there's L. And then you see those as you go, and you create and build the timeline as you go. You create and build the outcomes as you go, and you don't have to see like the end goal. You don't have to see all the way to the end to know that whatever steps you're taking are leading you in the right direction. And also like that you can take a completely different path. Like there's so many different paths that you can take to get to the same destination, right? So yeah, you can just decide that you're always taking the right step. You're always making the right decision, and just decide that, and then let the universe show you why it's right. I hope that was clear, because that was like a little bit of a weird one. But it's like, yeah, it's like the idea that your intuition is a tool. It's not the end all and be all of like, okay, this is true. It's like, it's an offering to you to decide, okay, do I like that reality, or do I want to think about it in a different way? Do I want to respond to this in a different way? How would I respond to the situation if it was in this, if I knew that this favorable outcome was happening, and then respond according to that, or just inhabit yourself, live in the moment as if like you already are that person, as if the outcome has already happened. You already have the money that you want. You already have this. You already have that. In that moment, just like be as happy and carefree as you would be if you had the reasons that you think you need to be that. Okay, so this is getting like a little out of hand. Like I feel like it's getting a little complicated, but hopefully it all makes sense. I do feel like you all are a very smart group with that Rubik's Cube here, so, and a bit wordy. So hopefully that all made sense to you, but this was a really fascinating message, and so I do hope it resonated, but I am going to cut it off there, because I think we really covered it. Like I think we got it. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that resonated. Please like, comment, subscribe. I would love to know how this resonated and what you thought of this format. And if you're interested in a personal reading, we do offer those on our website, sunflowerphilosophy.com. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. And if you are interested in hypnosis and human design, we also offer that. So check that out. Once again, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful life. And I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye. Hi Group 4, if you selected the Boo Boo Bear, then you're in the right place, and this is your reading with a message from your inner child to help set you free. Also, here are your cards, the Knight of Wands and the Seven of Swords. So, I did, in case you skipped it, do a little talk about what version of you this could be that's coming through, what age range or what the characteristics are of this version of you that it's coming through today in the reading breakdown / group selection. So in case you missed that and you want to go back and hear me talk about that in more detail, feel free to just go back and check that out. That is part of how I decided to do it that way so that people could use that to choose their groups if there was a version of them that felt relatable and that's how they wanted to do it. But I do want to say that you do not have to 100% know or remember or think that any of those things that I said in the intro apply to you, or even remember this version of you to have messages that resonate with you. So basically, whatever messages come through here, if they resonate with you in some way, then you can just take that and trust it. So yeah, without further ado, Group 4, let's see what message your inner child has for you to help set you free in some way. However that looks for you, whatever that means for you at this time. So Group 4's inner child. What messages do you have to set Group 4 free? Whoa, okay. Lots of cards just tumbled out in all different directions. All right, so we have, is this upright or reversed? Upright, okay, 4 of Wands. We have 6 of Cups. We have 10 of Pentacles. And then let's get 2 more cards, please. Group 4's inner child, 2 more cards. King of Cups. Wow. And one more, and is this upright or reversed? We'll go with upright. Okay. Ace of Wands is on the bottom of the deck. And I'm going to put that off to the side. I'll let you know if it becomes important, but we're going to focus on these 5 cards here that popped out. So, wow. Lots of powerful and also just really good energy here, Group 4. So I feel like, first and foremost, right off the bat, the biggest thing your inner child wants you to know is that things are going well for you in some way, and I feel like you have a really bright future ahead, if not bright present. And I want to say that because this is coming from your inner child, this may be an assurance to you that I feel like almost this is them saying to you, thank you for creating this future for me. You know what I mean? And I do feel like for some of you, that might be a difficult pill to swallow in the sense that you might not feel like you're quite where you want to be. It's going to depend on the person. Some of you might be like, yeah, I'm having a really great time. This is a great point in my life. But some of you might feel like you're still kind of figuring things out, like you haven't really gotten where you want it to be. And maybe you've been worried or even had some kind of subconscious feeling like what you're doing right now, past you wouldn't be proud of you or wouldn't be excited about how your life is going currently. But I feel like in some way, shape, or form, you have created a life or are in the process of creating a life that your inner child is really excited about and is really excited that they have to look forward to, because in their space and time, like they're kind of in the past, right? So they're really excited that you've taken them on this journey. I do feel like there could be a message here. There's some vibes here relating to potentially partnership, marriage, children, maybe even past family dynamics. So maybe there's some significance around the family dynamics you grew up in versus the dynamics that you have now in your current family situation, or the one that you're hoping to create for yourself. But there's also this idea, like, I feel like with the 10 of Pentacles, no matter where you are right now, this is you creating a legacy. And I feel like your inner child can kind of see where you're headed and also can see the trajectory of where you've been to where you are right now from a different perspective than maybe you can. And looking at it from the outside, they can really appreciate, well, outside and inside, because they are you, they can really appreciate the I don't know, I guess the legacy that you've created for yourself, but for them, almost like, I feel like this Ten of Pentacles could be both literal in the sense that maybe you have amassed a certain amount of abundance, or that's one of your goals that you're working on or something like that. But I almost feel like the Ten of Pentacles is more than just like, the number in your bank account or whatever your job is or anything like that. I feel like it is also just like any kind of resources, maybe even a mental, emotional, physical resources, or even the way that you take care of your health and things like that. Like, I feel like the way that you have been working on that and creating almost like this like well of resources, and this even maybe relationship with the universe, in the sense that whether or not you have all these resources in your physical bank account right now, it's like you have this sort of spiritual bank account of like unending abundance that you can draw from. And I feel like this is something that you've built up over time. Like, you've worked on yourself, on your situation in some way, shape, or form that your inner child is so grateful for, because they get to enjoy that with you. And then they also can see where you're headed and how it is bringing in even more for you. Like, you've created a really solid foundation that will continue to, I just heard like dividends, like it'll create dividends. Is that the right way to say it? Like, you've invested in the right things. And this investment can be literal, but it can also be more figurative, in the sense of investing in yourself, in your health, in your interests, in things that make you happy, in your own happiness, and in figuring out what that looks like. And I feel like you doing that is creating this like storeroom of like joy and love and happiness and abundance that is carrying through the rest of your life. As far as your inner child is concerned, they want you to know that. And it also could have to do, again, with your family life. So maybe there's something about, with the Six of Cups here and the Four of Wands and the King of Cups, this could be something about like a soulmate relationship as well. So this could be something about like, it feels like it could be a reassurance to you that your ideal relationship, well, I mean, either you're in it right now and you're creating that situation and they're acknowledging that and they're really excited about that, or perhaps that's what you're bringing in. That's coming to you. That's something that was always meant to be a part of your life. And so it's part of this sort of like bank account, spiritual bank account, if you will, right? Like that you've, I don't know, you're on that timeline, so to speak, of that wonderful soulmate relationship, that person that you're meant to be with, the family that you want to create. That's all coming to you in due time, if it's not in your life already. Like, you're on that path, and you have made sure through whatever you've grown through that you have been able to get yourself onto that path. Yeah. I feel like with the Hermit here, this is why, for some of you, this is not necessarily an obvious thing. Like, you might not have full faith in your path right now, or you might not be fully aware of what you've been creating for yourself, because with the Hermit here, I feel like it's almost like looking within to find all of these resources, to find all of this stuff, this King of Cups energy, this Ten of Pentacles energy, this Six of Cups energy, and this Four of Wands here. It's harmony and balance. This is like childhood memories, and it can be playfulness to me. It can be sharing. It can be soulmate connections. This is abundance and wealth and a legacy and family that you're creating. Ooh, okay. For some of you, I almost feel like I just got a message from like a future child or current child as well of yours that maybe is somehow connected with your inner child in a way, like in sort of like maybe you're very similar. Like maybe your child or children will be or are very similar. Of course, take this as it resonates. If you're not someone who is going to have children, or you don't have children, you don't want to, then it could maybe be a child in your life right now who's not yours, or who will be in your life that will be significant to you in some way, and could be similar to you as a child. So that could also be significant here. I feel like that almost like just cut in as I was talking. It's like another child energy that's not necessarily your inner child, but someone else's. Also, it could be an inner child of a soulmate, like someone who's really important to you and significant in your life, right? This King of Cups figure can represent another person, but it can also represent just a well of emotional strength and maturity that, again, I just feel like you have built up over time, that you've worked on, that, yeah, you've created a stable foundation for yourself in, that maybe was something that was lacking from your childhood, you know, like your inner child. Maybe I was saying that I was getting the idea that for a lot of you, you could have been very sensitive, and you might have been, maybe you got hurt a lot physically and emotionally, and it could be a situation where you've had to sort of build up your own reserves and resources of emotional awareness and emotional stability, and you've had to really be there for yourself. And that's a feeling like that I get that your inner child is really grateful for, because you can kind of be that parent for them if you needed that for yourself. And I feel like even for those of you who maybe had a decent upbringing, who had good parents who were really there for you, there's still ways in which sometimes we realize that there are things that we needed that no one else could give to us, maybe because they didn't know, and we didn't even know ourselves what we needed. And then as an adult, you get to kind of learn how to give that to yourself and someone else on your own. And so maybe you had a bit of that experience as well. And yeah, and with the Hermit here, going back to that, I feel like this is really shining a light on all of this stuff that's within you. Almost like, again, like the stability you've built within yourself, the soulmate connections that exist within you, like your connection to other people, your deep connections to other people are within you at all times, in that whether you have met your soulmates or soulmates in this lifetime or not, like it's like that connection has never left you. It's always been with you, you know, in that sort of like spiritual quantum way. And you've really like nurtured that connection, either knowingly or not. And then also your connection with like your past and future abundance, your past and future like resources as well. Like you've been really storing up that energy. I do feel like this is stuff that you've built for yourself, and either it's in your life now or it's on its way. It's kind of like it is part of your life, even if it's not physically here, because you are on that trajectory. And going back to the Ace of Wands that was on the bottom of the deck, that can be like the start of a new adventure. So I almost feel like you have started a cycle in your life where you're going to really see all of this come to fruition if you haven't yet. Like it's all sort of taking place. I almost feel like you're stepping out of the foundational building phase that you might have been in for a while, where you've been sort of focusing on, with the Hermit here, focusing on yourself. Yes, you know what it is? I feel like you've spent a lot of time focusing on yourself and your self-growth. That's in a way that's helped you store up a lot of just like intentional creative energy. And like you've learned how to create joy for yourself. You've learned how to trust the universe and trust yourself. You've learned how to trust in your dreams and goals and ideals. You've learned how to trust in not only a wonderful present, but also a wonderful future. And you've learned how to trust in yourself, your emotional maturity, and also potentially a partner or someone who will come in and be a partner for you. So I feel like you have really risen to the challenge of like personal growth, of internal growth, and your inner child is really grateful for that, because it's been helpful for them. They've been able to grow with you through that. And in fact, for some of you, you might resonate with the idea that if you had anything that you were dealing with as a child that was difficult, you grew into the person who could have helped that version of you. Like you can, if you were to meet your child or younger self now as the person that you are, you would know exactly what they need, and you would be able to help them and help them become the person that you are, basically. And I mean, I feel like, isn't that kind of all what we all grow into and who we all become. But I feel like you almost did that very deliberately. Like you had a path that required you to really look within and do that internal growth, and you have gotten there. And so if there's anything your inner child is setting you free from right now, it's any worries that you are not on the right path, any worries that you have not done right by them, any worries that you're not where you're meant to be, anything that also stops you from enjoying your present, even if all of the things that you envision for your future aren't here yet, right? Like, don't even worry about that. You're already there. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the process, enjoy the unfolding, and look back at where you came from and how much you've changed and grown as a person, and remember when it felt like who you were was as far as you were going to get, and who you are now was inconceivable. And realize that if you feel that way about any version of you that you feel like doesn't exist yet, like, obviously you can have that same experience of growth where you're going to feel like, oh wait, this was inevitable. Of course I'm this person. Of course I was always going to grow into this person. Of course this was always going to work out, you can trust that. And I feel like you know that, and there might just be a little bit of doubts that creep in every so often that your inner child wants to set you free from, to let you know that you really have done it. You've done it. I don't know what it is because it will be different for all of you, but you've really done it. And with the Seven of Swords here, that could be some imposter syndrome, but you needn't have that because you really are it. You are what you think you are. You are what you say you are. You are, you're in a really great place, and you can trust that. You can trust that. So I'm going to just get a few quote cards for a closing message from your inner child, which I guess I didn't mention that at the beginning of this group. I forgot. I am recording you guys on a separate day because I was afraid I was going to run out of storage on my phone. So I forgot how I introduced the other groups. But yeah, we have these quote cards here. I'm just going to shuffle up a couple of the piles of quote cards for any further messages from your inner child. So group 4's inner child, what further message do you have for group 4? All right, thank you. And one more pile. Let's just shuffle this up. Group 4's inner child, what further message do you have for group 4? Do you have anything else to say to group 4 in this reading? Anything else you want to convey? Okay. So we have first this card here with all these bright colors. And it says, dreamers changed the world, from Anne with an E. Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then we also have this quote here with this kind of yin-yang symbol. And we have, part of man's frustration is that he has become accustomed to expect language and thoughts to offer explanations which they cannot give. From Alan Watts. And so dreamers change. Okay. So those actually go really well together for this message, because dreamers change the world. I feel like you have been a dreamer. Like, that's why that's how you've created this foundation for yourself. And that's why you also might sometimes feel like your goals are too lofty, or it's going to take a long time to get there, or you're not sure if you're on the right path, because you're probably on a path, or you've been working on creating a life for yourself that felt so out of reach at times, because that's the nature of like having faith in a different reality than the one that you're in, and then taking the steps to create that, is that you have to dream, you have to imagine, you have to have faith, and you have to just keep moving forward. And yeah, you have really changed your world, and you are still in the process of changing it, and you can make it anything you want, really. I feel like you have crossed some kind of threshold here where you feel like you're starting to hope that actually you can have all the things that you imagined, and you're starting to really feel like that's true, and you can trust that because you have changed the world. Like, you have changed your world, and that is really all you have, right? Is your world. So keep dreaming, keep imagining what you want things to be like, and keep believing in that. Keep moving towards that. And trust that the change that you see is real, and you can take that as confirmation of your growth, of your inner growth. of the inner work that you've done being reflected back to you in the world, which is very cool. And then we have part of man's frustration is that he has become accustomed to expect language and thoughts to offer explanations which they cannot give. Yeah, maybe you did spend a lot of time like overanalyzing life and yourself in certain situations, and also wanting maybe explanations for things or certain things to make sense that just I get the sense that you might have let go of trying to justify yourself to other people, your dreams to other people, or your dreams and goals and ideas to even the part of you that doubts them, the part of you that needs things to make sense, needs to know how you're going to get from A to B. Like, I feel like you have started placing less weight on providing an explanation to those parts of yourself and providing an explanation to the people who might embody those doubts in your life, if any. And also, this gives me the vibe of someone who has stopped looking outside of themselves for someone else to explain things to them. I feel like you are really, with this hermit here, you're really good at self-reflection, looking within, using your inner resources, drawing upon those to create and to give you the stories, the ideas, the thoughts, the explanations that you need. And not relying on other people's words and other people's thoughts to do that for you, right? Because even when we get ideas and thoughts from other people, it's our choice to take them in or not. It's our choice to say, oh, that resonates with me. And we can feel it, when we're really in touch with ourselves, we can feel when something is for us and we can feel when it maybe isn't. I feel like you've gotten very good at filtering that kind of thing. And you don't feel the need to explain yourself so much anymore. And also, if you do sometimes deal with that, this is your inner child letting you know that you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to figure out why and tell everyone why you do what you do and explain yourself to everyone. Just live your life, trust yourself, and if people are meant to understand your path, they will through how it unfolds, not through you explaining it to them. Just inhabit your own energy, be who you are, and let people be who they are, and it will all shake out, it will all work out, and it will all start to make sense. Like, it will make, I think the fewer words you use, the less time you spend trying to make things make sense, explain things in words, to explain why you do the things that you do, explain your life story, the more the things will actually just make sense naturally. You don't have to get into the nitty-gritty details. You don't have to come up with reasons for this or for that. You can just let things be and let yourself be and trust that it makes sense even if your logical mind can't always make sense of it. Yeah. And for some of you, last minute message is, if you spend a lot of time in introspection, and that's helped you sort of build this foundation that we see here, this really solid, wonderful foundation of just wonderful energy and amazing things, and that you're bringing into your life. If you spent a lot of time on that, you are free to... That was likely valuable time. Maybe you've been in a hermit mode for a while. I do feel like you're free to get out there more, go out and interact with the world more. I feel like you have really gotten that your internal self, like, you're solid with you. You're solid with your relationship with yourself. You can now expand out into the world around you. You can trust yourself to go back out and enjoy life and know that you know you and you're solid in your energy. And for those of you who might actually feel the opposite, like you've been spending too much time like out and about and maybe you've lost a little bit of touch with yourself, this is your inner child redirecting you back to your inner resources to let you know that you've got all this good stuff stored in here. Don't let anyone deplete that. Don't go to anyone else you don't need anything else to fill your cup right now. You don't need anyone else to tell you. You don't need more information, right? You don't need to keep searching for information. Anything that you need to know will find you and you'll know it when it finds you. You've got it. You're good. I feel like you went through the spiritual exploration part. You went through the self-analysis. You went through all that process and you're ready to stop thinking so much about who you are and analyzing yourself and just live your life and enjoy it, create it how you want it to be, have fun with it. Yeah. Cool. Cool. I guess the last thing I'll say about that is that because this Knight of Wands came out as representing this part of your inner child, perhaps as well there is a part of... I almost feel like... okay, yeah, I didn't talk about this part as... Like, I didn't refer back to this part as much in the other readings, but I do feel like with the Knight of Wands here and the Seven of Swords here, I did mention like a potentially rambunctious, creative, fiery individual, and then also like maybe someone who was a bit of a liar or like to make things up. But I also am getting the sense that maybe there was a past version of you that was like a really like a go-getter in some sense, or like really creative and really fun and playful and joyful, and also maybe like to make things up and imagine things. And that is serving you in your present life, right? Dreamers change the world, right? You can use those skills of like making up stories and, you know, if you're playing in the backyard and making up like your own characters and stuff like that and getting lost in your own little worlds and things like that. But also like making up anything in your real life. If you're really good at that, you can really kind of dream yourself into a new reality. And I feel like that's what you've done. And I also feel like if you almost feel like you've lost touch with that part of yourself, you can reconnect with this inner child of yours who was really like, who could imagine all these different things and come up with all these different stories and then go make them happen, right? Like maybe for some of you playing make-believe, playing with some dolls or toys or whatever, or action figures, and playing make-believe like you would have as a kid could be a really fun practice for you to help get you in that energy. But it's also to remember that that's sometimes the wisdom of our inner children is the ways that they play, the ways that they have fun, the ways that they imagine things. We can bring all of that into our adult life and use that in our adult life as well. And use that to create our lives, right? Like you can approach life almost like a child again. Yeah. So that might be important for you now in just continuing to trust in your dreams and believe in the version of you that you've built. So yeah, that is about it. Group 4, that's it. I hope this was helpful. I hope this resonated. Please like, comment, subscribe. I would love to hear from you in terms of how this resonated for you, or also what you think about this format. And yeah, if you're interested in a personal reading, we do offer those on our website, sunflowerphilosophy.com. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. And if you're interested in hypnosis or human design, we offer those services as well, so you can check that out too. Thanks again for watching. Have a wonderful life, and I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye!